So Matt Walsh just had the worst take to start off 2025.
I must assume, and I think assume safely, that there is nothing in the other two films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid.
I really hope this is one of his ragebait constellations to help gain traction after being gone for 3 weeks, because this at minimum is a very ignorant and lazy review, and at worst a massive expose on his own personal hypocrisy, ego, and a lack of respect for any forms of modern media. But firsthand, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and see what he has to say.
Because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film, and they have absolutely no respect for their audience.
Knowing the history behind the development of Sonic 1, it would already be extremely hard to make this argument. But even so, there are clear signs that the actors enjoyed being the characters they play. For starters, Jim Carrey said that he wouldn't do another movie unless Angels from the Heaven came with a script written in gold ink. And yet, for the first time in his career, he played two characters in the same movie. You could also look at Lee Majdoub, who has been seen at Sonic conventions interacting with fans as Agent Stone. Or that Keanu Reeves researched Shadow the Hedgehog beforehand to stay true to character. Or the fact that Colleen O'Shaughnessy has been voicing Tails for a decade and a half. These are actors that truly care about the role they are playing and not just trying to make a quick buck. As for the creators, Sega, who owns Sonic's IP, has had a lot of history of good relations with fans. They are known for their relaxed stance on intellectual property rights and encourage fan-made creations like Project F6. In 2017, they would even go so far as to hire 2 ROM hackers who pirated Sega's game software to make Sonic Mania, which is one of the most well-received Sonic games of the 2010s. Sega has been willing to work with people who have literally stolen from them to make good games for fans. Their choice of a movie director was no different. Jeff Fowler was a CGI animator for Shadow the Hedgehog on the PS2, and has said it was a great honor to bring Shadow to the big screen. He has been methodically bringing in Sonic characters to make sure each of their story is fleshed out. If this were a director trying to cash in on fan service, without caring about the characters in the story, he would have brought in as many as he could to try and hide what would be a shallow story.
There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with just your voice.
What Matt doesn't understand, because, as he said, he hasn't seen the first 2 movies, is that the actors are playing characters as they should be played. He says voice actors don't know how to act with just their voice, but what does that even mean? Does that mean they don't convey their emotion well enough? The problem here is that because he specifically mentioned Keanu Reeves, Shadow isn't one to be very emotional in the first place. There would be no reason to convey a lot of emotion in a character that isn't supposed to have much to begin with. And I'm surprised Matt isn't praising Shadow for his stoic demeanor, as he is always calling men to stop being so emotional. As for the other characters, there aren't any aspects of the acting that he specifically mentioned, so there isn't much to go off of.
This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest, and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances. The writing is just terrible, and the performances are atrocious across the board.
Matt is clearly showing that he wasn't following the story too closely. The tone is styled this way because it was slowly taking Shadow's dark past and infiltrating it into Sonic's lighthearted world. As Sonic interacted and learned more about Shadow, the tone became more grounded and serious until Sonic himself wants revenge for Tom's near-death accident. This serious tone was at its highest when Sonic went to get the Master Emerald from Wade. What may have seemed like an out-of-place joke to Matt was actually showing the vast contrast between who Sonic was at the beginning of the movie and where he was now. What was once an unserious and goofy character was now vengeful and full of hate, and having Sonic go to someone who wasn't aware of what was happening did a great job of showing who Sonic was becoming without straight up telling the audience. Also, hold on a second, Matt. Who are you to complain about haphazard jumps between goofy and serious when this very episode of your show goes from death row inmates to delivery drivers having diarrhea, with no transition other than a single sentence? And as for old internet lingo,
we're simping and fawning over a guy.
Your show constantly goes from massively tragic current events to an ExpressVPN ad read with the subtlety of a brick wall through glass. Even your movie had a massive tone shift at the end that would have been a shock to people not paying attention. People can't take you seriously when you are literally doing the exact same thing you accuse Sonic 3 of doing.
Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit. Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision. It is just the product of a corporate algorithm.
This is coming from a guy who works for the same company that created a knockoff Bluey for their streaming site a couple years ago. The art style was literally changed to make it resemble something closer to Bluey. And basically everything the Daily Wire does, entertainment related, isn't from creative vision, but from a corporate algorithm. Their Snow White movie was created because they wanted to combat Disney's live-action remake, Mr. Bertram was trying to be a generic modern adult animated show, and all of their preschool shows look exactly the same as every Blippi cartoon kid's ripoff. Even your new stars are trying to be knockoff versions of their old ones. I don't want to hear anything about corporate algorithm slop because your show is funded by slop masters. As for the argument itself, Sonic 3 is not just a set of bullet points created by a movie studio. It was loosely based on Sonic Adventure 2 and integrated with the movie's timeline. That game was a complete creative vision of Shiro Maekawa. Also, why is having bullet points bad? Literally all biographical movies have bullet points to make sure the story is accurate, and many movies based on books or TV shows have the exact same formula. Fortunately, Matt had a few commenters on his channel that shared the same sentiment as the things I mentioned, and other than mocking those comments, telling him to go look at the source material.
Understand the source material, but you're saying it about Sonic the Hedgehog. My God.
He had two final arguments to make in his response.
And so the movie is actually mainly just a commercial for all the merchandise.
So why can't a movie sell merchandise while also telling a good story? There are plenty of shows Matt has recommended on his show that have merchandise that you can find online or in stores. There's nothing wrong with selling merchandise on the side. Even his own show has a shop. Sonic 3 told a good story, and the fact that it will now sell merchandise does not take away from its writing.
If they are for anyone, they are or should be for this generation of kids. And the problem is that you have adults in my generation who enjoyed things as kids and are clinging on to them and won't let go of them.
As for his second argument, there's nothing specifying what is for children and what is for adults. One of the many side tangents Matt likes to go on, one of his favorite have to be his Baltimore Ravens.
Now, I know that this fact is of no interest to many of you, but the NFL playoffs start next weekend. My Baltimore Ravens will play the Pittsburgh Steelers in Baltimore on Saturday night, and I'll be watching the game with my whole family, as I have over the course of many years. I have successfully indoctrinated my kids into Raven fandom.
Not only do you have the trash Harbaugh brother, but you also enjoy grown men in colorful shirts and tights, run around with a ball, and give aggressive hugs. That sounds like something children enjoy. I liked watching football as a kid, so now do I have to put the interest away as an adult? Why is it weird that Sonic fans dress up at conventions, but at the same time football fans can dress up in their team's jersey and wear makeup? It's such a massive double standard. At the end of the day, what probably happened is Matt saw the high Rotten Tomatoes score and a lot of people liking the movie, so like an edgy teen who needed to feel different, he tried to write it off. Unfortunately for him, he didn't make a good enough argument for his trolling. As for my own review of Sonic 3, it was easily the best Sonic movie of all of them. The writing and voice acting are extremely well done, and it handled the very diverse personalities extremely well. It didn't push any political agenda, and it was clear that there was a lot of heart put into it. Definitely in my top 5 favorite movies of 2024. I hope you have all a great day, and God bless.